Well, our visitors can see a lot of interesting things having to do with D-Day. Some of the really big things are the C-47, marked for the invasion with the great big black and white invasion stripes, and also the CG-4 glider, a great tool for towing behind the C-47 and getting extra troops and equipment behind the beaches. So the airborne story with the C-47 and the glider are really great. Plus you can see a lot of equipment that the airborne troops use. There's special uniforms and special gear and weapons and so on. One of the kind of interesting, strange things you can see is a decoy, a paratrooper that's not a paratrooper. If the people on the ground are going to shoot at something, you want them shooting at a decoy, right? Not at the real people. So deception was a huge part of D-Day. And not just dropping fake paratroopers, but staging fake invasions in other places and drawing the Nazi forces off to different places so they couldn't ever be sure where the real invasion was actually going to take place. The significance of D-Day is that it was the opening of a second front against the Nazis to liberate Europe and get some of the pressure off of the Soviet Union to split the German forces and eventually to bring about their defeat. It was the beginning of that process. The scale of this was absolutely tremendous. It's almost mind-boggling numbers. Something like 5,000 vessels taking more than 150,000 troops across the channel, and those troops were Americans and Canadians and British and a whole bunch of smaller numbers of other allied nations. In the air, the U.S. Army Air Forces flew more than 14,000 sorties on the first day of the invasion, and they kept up that pressure for weeks and months as the Allies drove across the continent. The D-Day invasion is just one day in a really long process. It required lots and lots of planning and cooperation beforehand, tons of courage and fast thinking in its execution, and then the follow-through to drive back the Axis forces across the continent, meet the Russians, and conclude the war in Europe. It's all a terrific story and all stuff that you can see here.